Welcome to Friday. You made it. It's Planet Earth, and we're always here welcoming you. No matter what you've been doing all week, we're always going to welcome you, unless you're wearing a Dallas Cowboys jersey or a Baltimore Ravens fan, and if you talk too much about the Cleveland Browns. But other than that, hey, welcome aboard, man. Really help if you brought donuts, though. Just a little advice here from Mr. H. So welcome to Planet Earth, and today we're going to talk about my very first subject of historical inquiry. That's right, the Persian Wars. Long ago and far away when I was an ugly little kid, I used to work in my dad's pizza shop all the time. And, I didn't watch any of Saturday morning cartoons. I was working on Saturday morning, right? I had nothing else better to do. Why not hang out with my dad, make some pizza, right? Well, a rare Saturday I had off. One of my cousins came by, and well, it's Pittsburgh on Friday, so he's been drinking a bit. So he decided to crash on our couch rather than crash out on 279 someplace. I was up and I didn't want to bother him, so I saw this book up on the shelf. It's called The Ancient World. So I decided to look at it, and lo and behold, the Persian Wars. And Mr. H began his journey into the wonderful world of history. Here's what I like to call the map when I'm over there in class. Here's the map. Get used to seeing the map. There's Persia in orange, Greece in every other color but orange. Macedonia there and all the other city-states. And there's in blues what we call, real Greece, some people like to call it. I saw a video on the Persian War the other day, and this guy, nice enough guy, but he got it all wrong. He was talking about Darius crossing the Hellespont, which he didn't do. That was Xerxes, and Darius left Greece after some problems, i.e. losing the Battle of Marathon. He made it sound like it was a zoning ordinance dispute or something, or they forgot to put enough mushrooms on the pizza or something. Well, I'm deciding I'm going to correct that. See that big orange thing? Persian Empire, it's pretty big. I'm going to show you how big it is in a second. But Darius did not march up to the Hellespont and come down, around the coastline. He actually had a fleet of triremes, you know what a trireme is, and sailed island to island before landing in Greece, demolishing Etruria and then finally landing at Marathon. But as you've guessed, Persia is rather large. Look at the size of this thing. The biggest empire in the history of the world up to this point, and, it's one of the biggest of all time. Not the biggest, but, not bad, especially in this era. It's not something you take lightly fighting something like this. Back to the map. Yes, get used to the map. So, Darius, over there on the western edge of the Persian Empire, that was present-day Turkey, there are Greek colonies over there, and Persia had conquered those colonies. Later on, Darius was trying to fight with the Scythians way up in present-day Ukraine, lost, and it started a rebellion down there with all the Greek city-states along the coast there of Asia Minor. Athens and Etruria were two that helped them out. The whole thing kind of went south. The rebellion got crushed. But Persia hadn't forgotten about what the Greeks on the mainland were doing. And Athens was the one who really upset them, because not only did they aid the rebellion, they walked in and burned down the provincial capital of Sardis. So they got a score to settle there with the Athenians. Well, they're going to sail, and they're going to totally crush the Greeks with a huge army. That's what the Persians do. They get big armies. Built that whole empire in 15 years. And they got a pretty good idea of what they're doing. They land on the beach at Marathon, and they will be defeated. Now, how many Persians were there? Well, Herodotus says there's 100,000 Persians and only 10,000 Greeks. I don't know about that, man. It just doesn't seem right, because an army that big could just brush by 10,000 people and not even know they were there, right? I've been to Marathon. There it is today. There's no way you can fit 110,000 people on that beach. It's just not going to happen. So, in my opinion, and my opinion carries a lot of weight across the world, because they have two master's degrees in this stuff, I'm thinking 25,000 Persians. But still, 9,000 Athenians, 1,000 people from Plataea, 25K versus 10K. It's still some pretty steep odds. Plus, the Persians are big into archers, so, the Greeks charge headfirst into the teeth of the Persians and basically smash them back into the water before the archers can come into play. Here's a map of what was going on. Now, the Persians anchored their flank on a couple of creeks over there. And when you read Herodotus, he says the battle unfolded as thus. The Greeks had charged forward with their bronze armor against the Persians, wicker shields and pajamas there, smashed them back, and that the two flanks came in and basically surrounded the Persians and crushed them. I don't know if the Athenian phalanx is that well trained. Maybe it sort of happened on its own, but we do know one thing: the Greeks won. Probably smashed the Persians right back into the Aegean, and we'll never see them again. No, we're going to see them again. Philippides has to run 26 miles, hence marathon, to say we won. Then he dies. The Persian fleet may or may not have sailed around to make an attempted landing at Athens. We don't know, but the Athenians held some people back and they're on the beach, so a forced landing is almost impossible in the ancient world. So Persians decided to call a day. So Battle of Marathon goes to the Greeks. 6,400 Persians supposedly died. 192 Greeks, and this has been confirmed because the burial mound, they ran a radar wave through and came back with 191 skulls, missing one. I guess nobody liked Nick. They left him out there in the field somewhere. Who are these two Persian kings that we always hear about with the Persian Wars? There's Darius. You've already heard about him. Darius was a pretty good king. Darius the First. Some people like to call him the Great. I don't. He was a good administrator, came up with a satrap system to run the empire, built a lot of roads, but he wasn't a very good general. Like I say, he fought against the Scythians and lost, barely put down the Greek rebellion there on the coast of Asia Minor. Then he went up against the Athenians and lost. And he was, by all accounts, a level-headed sort of guy, very calm, easy guy to work for. But the Athenians, they just got to him. I don't know, this calm, intellectual, very nice guy just lost it when it came to the Athenians, because after that loss, he detailed a slave to sit next to him every meal and say, "Sire, remember the Athenians. Sire, remember the Athenians." Yeah, this guy's pretty mad. I don't want that job, man. I mean, if he wants to execute you, he probably will, but definitely try and get those orders in writing. That's best chance you're going to have of surviving that. So Darius is going to get this massive army together. It's so huge that the Greeks won't stand a chance against it. And in 46 BC, 4 years after Marathon, he dies. Then his son Xerxes takes over. Right now, Xerxes gets a bad rap, and a lot of it's actually deserved. Very bad-tempered kind of guy. He wasn't really sure if he should continue on with this adventure against the Greeks because it was costing a lot of money. But hey, he needs something to show he's a conqueror, so off to Greece we go, and Xerxes is going to lead the charge. No, Xerxes didn't look like that. I remember the movie 300. He's not 7 feet tall, doesn't dress like that. I don't know where they came up with this idea. They took, the Persian Wars and turned it into Lord of the Rings, but I've only watched the movie 2 or 3 times, so I guess it's not too bad. Now, here's the guy who crosses the Hellespont here. It wasn't Darius, it was Xerxes. He works his way up to the Hellespont. It's very narrow there, just below where Istanbul is today. It's where Gallipoli would be in 1915. And, you can't walk on water, so he built a pontoon bridge. Bunch of boats together, build the bridge, you got a bridge, people walk across. So he builds this bridge, and a storm comes up and wrecks the bridge. Xerxes, as you can tell, the lights are on, but not everybody's home because he has his soldiers whip the water. Yeah, okay, this guy's not playing with a full deck, right? They're over there whipping the water so it'll behave. Then he felt bad about it and threw the whips into the water. Too late, you've already done it. So they built another pontoon bridge, the water behaves itself, and now they come walking down the coastline of Greece, headed straight for Athens. Well, guess who's waiting for them? Before you get there, we have Thermopylae. It's a very narrow pass. There it is today on the right, and the topography's changed a little bit. Back then, the Aegean was already up to the mountains, so it's maybe a 50-yard beach over there the whole way down to basically Athens. Now, because of accretion and everything, it's a lot wider, so you don't see the water. But when you look at that picture over there on the right, you can tell it's a pretty wild battle, man. I mean, Persian army, according to Herodotus, was 5 million people. Okay, I think that's a bit of an exaggeration, okay? I think it was about 250,000, which, for that era might as well be 5 million. And standing in his way at Thermopylae, we have 300 Spartans, along with 6,000 other Greeks they sent to help him along. The Spartans told him, just hang back if we need donuts or something, we'll take care of it from here. The Greek phalanx, it's basically a wall of shields, man. Trying to bust through that, forget it. And nobody does it better than the Spartans, because the Spartans train. They can move this entire thing like a tank. They're different formations. They've been training since they were kids. The movie, it makes it look like a mountain pass where they're anchored on both sides. Again, in real life, they have mountains on one side and water on the other. So Persians are probably trying to outflank them through the water, and they can't get there. A lot of water splashing around. But it's the same idea. It's a narrow point. The Persian numbers don't really mean anything. And they go hammering away at the Spartans, man, over and over for 2 days. Cannot get through, right? Spartans lose a few people, Persians lose a lot. And they're starting to get scared of Persians, because that's at one point in the second day, they got people with whips driving them forward. Then that can't be good for morale. And of course, the immortals smashed into them and lost. So, the longer this goes on, there's a good chance this Persian army may disintegrate. And we're not sure if this Ephialtes guy, the traitor, actually existed and showed him a mountain pass. Maybe they found it in their own, because the Persians are mountain people too. They're looking around for mountain passes. But one way or another, they got back behind the Spartans. The Spartans had enough time to tell the other Greeks to take off, and they fight all the way to the last man. So the Persians, it's kind of like the Alamo, right? The Persians win, but they still lose. They killed the 299 Spartans. One guy got away and lost about 20,000 people. And that aura of invincibility has been shattered. They marched down to Athens. Everyone got out of there. Talking about the wooden walls prophecy. So a couple will stay behind a wooden wall and get burned to death. But they're really talking about the ships. So the Persians march into Athens, burn it down. They think it's mission accomplished. They bring their fleet to knock off what's left of the Greek fleet. Battle of Salamis. And again, there's a legend of a traitor telling Xerxes to split up his fleet to fight the Greeks. And Xerxes has a throne built above Salamis so he could watch all of this. It sounds like something he would do. And the Persians lose pretty bad, because most of the Persian fleet are made up of Phoenicians and Egyptians who don't really want to be there. When you're fighting on somebody else's ground, the enthusiasm ebbs a little bit, right? Home field advantage, right? Ukraine, Russia, see that today, right? Any Steeler game. They have their big battle at Salamis, and the Greek fleet completely destroys, we're going to call it the Persian fleet. Xerxes, he's just beside himself with rage, often is. So he decides to leave Greece, and he puts Meridonis in charge. They're going to take care of this in the spring. So just imagine if you're sitting over in Persia and you hear the news. Hey, they've burned down Athens. We got them back. And then 2 days later, the whole Persian fleet's been destroyed. So a lot of emotional roller coasters over there in Persia. Nonetheless, the Persian army winters in Greece, and they're getting ready for one more big battle. We got over 40,000 Greeks led by 10,000 Spartans. Might have been about 8,000, but we'll run with the movie script. Everybody knows it that well. And they fight it out at Plataea. And this is a really big, big battle. And in the end, the Greeks win big, right? The Persian army basically gets destroyed. Meridonis, the commander, got killed and dragged around on a chariot in front of everybody. Really epic kind of stuff. The Persian army kind of disintegrates. They let them go because, they don't get stuck feeding everybody, 200,000 people. So they just end up marching home in disgrace. Again, imagine when you're in Persia and you see your whole army coming back and everybody's been disarmed. It's a real morale buster there. So that's the last time Greeks and Persians are ever going to fight in Greece. In fact, there's even one more battle to go. You usually hear about this one, right? Battle of Mycale. That was later on that year. They landed on Asia Minor. Persians had kind of, what was left of their fleet had retreated there. And the Greeks landed and pulled an Iwo Jima kind of thing, hit the beach, everybody runs up there. They burned down the rest of the Persian fleet. The little base, the temporary base that built up at the berm, they overran that and just killed everything that moved. So that was the end of the Persian Wars, right? So sometimes a small country fighting on its home soil can take on a big country that has no business invading the small country, right? David versus Goliath. That's the first thing that popped in my mind when I read this. And like I said, they're Greeks too. I always thought that was kind of cool. I identified with it. And then the next chapter was the Peloponnesian War, which kind of depressed me because Greeks fighting Greeks. On the other hand, they didn't see it that way, did they? Hey, let's talk about Gorgonopsia. Look at this vicious thing, man. There's this TV program called Primeval I saw at one time. That's the first episode I saw, something about, portals in time and some prehistoric animals come through. It's all in Great Britain. And this was the first episode, a Gorgonopsid, man. I say, oh my God, they decided to go heavy right off the bat. All right, so what's a Gorgonopsid? Well, there you are. It's kind of a very large, ferocious-looking predator, vaguely reptilian with a lot of teeth. There are different kinds of Gorgonopsids. So we're going to talk about the big one. There we are. Indostrasvestia. I know I just mangled the name. The thing about Gorgonopsids is that they're not only just big, and they're mainly reptiles, but they're kind of a bridge between mammals and reptiles. They look like reptiles, but they have a lot of mammalian features. They even look slightly like mammals a little bit. On the reptile side of the ledger, they have this pineal eye on top, what most reptiles have to regulate the temperature because the sun hits the top of your head first, warm them up. And look at the legs. See the legs? They're not sprawled out like an alligator or a dimetrodon. Now they're underneath like a wolf or something, right? Which means this thing could really run. And it dominates the Permian. Look at the size of this thing, man. It's huge. And look at the teeth, and it's apparently enjoying a meal of whatever that is. And there's a small one there. See, it's just like my dad and me going to work when I was a kid, right? It's bringing his kid to work over there. And it's Astoria, maybe, that thing he's eating. And it just dominates the entire Permian. And it's kind of strange because they didn't find a lot of fossils of this thing. But they find a lot of fossils of other animals with Gorgonopsian teeth marks on it. They found a somewhat complete skeleton of this thing in Russia, and another one in South Africa. It's kind of spread out today, and it was spread out then too because it's basically the entire world is one continent at this point. The Gorgonopsis is also a desert animal. They know this because of the places they found it and all the other fossils they found. Not much plant life, and the rocks are clearly of desert origin, especially in the Gobi Desert. We talked about that, how it's always been a desert. Right? So Gorgonopsia likes the desert because it kind of has to like the desert. The entire late Permian, the entire world is basically a desert. Everything lives within about 100 miles of the coast. If you go in, forget it. There's just nothing there, man. Sand, sand, and more sand. It's so bad, even Arizona looks like Florida. Some people speculate, hypothesize, that the Gorgonopsia not was just a bridge between mammals and reptiles, but an actual mammal. Again, the thing on top of the head says reptile, but definitely mammalian features. Other people have claimed that when you're close enough to fossils, you can see hair imprint, which is certainly possible. I don't know if it looked like a cheetah, but that's kind of a cool design. I like that. You could just tell this animal, even the big one, is just built for speed. If this thing sees you in the open ground and runs after you, you're not going to outrun this thing. All I can say is zigzag. That might buy you a few extra seconds. Maybe it gets tired. Maybe you find something else more delicious to eat. Just a little bit of advice from Mr. H in case you go back in time. I was showing you earlier the entire world is one big continent, the world of Gorgonopsids here. So that means the climate in the middle of this continent, you're not going to see a lot of rainfall. So everything right down the middle is a desert. All the way down the middle, it's going to be North and South America and the divide, and it's going to be Atlantic Ocean one day. It's all hot. It's all desert, all the way to the middle of Eurasia. So everything basically lives within 100 miles of the coastline until, of course, the great dying when nothing lives anywhere. Look at that ocean, man. Imagine trying to sail from one side to the other. What was it, 10,000 miles? Easy. Oh, now it's got to be closer to 15. Oh, God, it's a long way to go. Yeah, you're not going to make that sail trip, man, so don't bother. Just kind of stick around to the coastline. Fish taste better, too. And that's what Pangaea would look like if you put the political map on there. Huh? Look at that. United States, go to the beach, and boom, you're in Morocco. I mean, yeah, that might cause a few problems there. Let's just go back to what the world's supposed to look like. We have enough problems with separate continents as it is. Hey, you know what's coming up, don't you? Opening day. Pitt got off to a great start. taking down the mighty Wofford Terriers 45-7. That's college. Here's the pros. And the Steelers get to do battle with the San Francisco 49ers over at Acrisure Stadium. So this should be a pretty good one. The Niners had a #1 defense last year. Steelers up and coming, man. I think they're going to do really well. I think they're about 2-3 years away from a Super Bowl. But, hey, prove me wrong and win it this year. I won't hold it against you. Now, this guy, Nick Bosa, I've never liked this guy. He seems to have like an attitude problem. Of course, he has more money than I'm ever going to see. He just signed that huge contract, right? Played with the Chargers a long time, now the Niners. I didn't think they were going to play this game, but they signed that huge contract just for the deadline, so they're going to see him a little bit up on the front line. He's a very hard player to defend against because he plays on the right side and left side of the line. So Steelers tackles got to watch out for this guy. He hasn't been back with the team very long, so I don't think he's going to be in very much. Just a few plays here and there, probably third and long. So hopefully we don't get to see this guy at all. But you know, the bad news keeps rolling because not only is Nick Bosa out there, over the offseason they picked up Javon Hargrave. He used to play at the Eagles. There he is, ironically tackling a 49er. He's on the other side of that defense. So both of these guys are going to try to collapse the flanks and drive Kenny Pickett up towards the middle. You know, kind of like the Greeks collapsing the flanks of the Persians at Marathon. Yeah, that kind of thing. Like I said, tackles, you better be on it. The best way to stop these guys if they're playing is to probably drive straight ahead at them and hit them with a few trap plays. One guy goes straight at him, pins him in place, and then another guy, usually the guard, hits him from the other side. You don't know where he is. You don't know which way the attack is coming from. Sometimes the guard attacks and then the tackle hits him from the other side. So if you do this, you can keep them off balance. And of course, like I said, two people driving straight at him. Yeah, push him off the line, and hopefully a running back, Najee Harris, doesn't even see these guys, so he's 3-4 yards off the field, up the field. San Francisco, a lot of weapons on offense, too. They got the new quarterback there, Brock Purdy. He seems to be fitting in pretty well. They sent the other guy off, Lance, to Dallas. They also have Christian McCaffrey, who is a very dangerous running back, starting off with the Panthers. Now he's doing his thing over there with the Niners. He's not only a good runner, he's very good at coming out the backfield and catching the ball. So Steeler linebackers, keep an eye on this guy. Now, he won't catch the ball if you put number 13 on his back over and over. You keep hitting him, yeah, he won't throw the ball anymore. Right? Got to go a little old school with these guys sometimes. How about the Steelers side here, man? Hey, look at this. We got aerial triplets here developing. Three-pronged attack over here. We got Kenny Pickett, the quarterback. It's his second year. So, you know, he's starting to learn everything, figure out how to do everything. Number 14 up there, Pickens, George Pickens. He's a really good receiver. And down there we have Deontay Johnson, number 18. These three guys are basically going to, quote-unquote, grow up together. That's why I think they're going to have a really good offense, if not this year, next year, the year after. You can see this team going all the way to the Super Bowl. If they win it in Vegas this year, I will certainly not complain. But these are the guys who are going to power our offense, and that's just through the air. Hey, let's talk about the ground battle. Isn't this a cool picture? Oh, I love this. Just an awesome picture here, jumping over that Raider. This is Najee Harris. He's a really good running back. He got off to a slow start last year, then turned it loose at the end, especially at the end when it gets cold and nasty. That's when you need a running game. And as strong as San Francisco's offense is, if our offense has got a running game going, just pounding them up the middle, that defense will fall apart eventually, and the Steelers will just grind them in the dust. And once you do that, then the passing game's wide open. So hopefully Najee Harris has a really big game, and maybe we'll see another picture like that. Hey, sneaky, the tight end. No one ever looks at the tight end, man. He just kind of blocks, puts a shot on Hargrave, maybe Bosa, then slips off into the middle of the field, but right behind the linebackers, boom, Pat Freiermuth. I'm not going to hold the fact he used to go to Penn State against him because now he plays for the Steelers. But tight ends tend to kind of sneak around a little bit. They'll pick up 6-7 yards, a catch, just enough to keep the ball rolling. And sometimes, every now and again, they break out in the flat, boom, catch the ball, and nobody knows they're there for 20 or 30 yards. Hopefully we'll see that happen a few times. Now, if you see this a lot, Steelers are going to win. There's the defense. We got Haywood and Watt crashing down on anybody dumb enough to try to come in the middle of the Steelers' defense. These two guys work in tandem, just like we were talking about Bosa and Hargrave there for the 49ers. If these guys collapse the middle of that pocket and keep putting Purdy on his butt, then we're going to win this game because he can't throw the ball if he's lying on his back. And if he hands off the ball and you whack them, don't worry, he's going to remember it. And you know what? He's going to be paranoid. You get in his head. You know, half this game is in your head. Yes, it's very true. If you think you can win, you are going to win. And there's another factor the Steelers have going for them. That's right. Even Buddy agrees. The hidden factor, they're playing at home. Yeah, home field advantage actually means something. Some people say, no, it doesn't. Yeah, it does, because when you're in a field out in Acrisure Stadium, almost at Heinz Field, and those people are cheering for you, yeah, that gives you energy. And the other team can't hear. And then, of course, hey, the shame of losing at home. You don't want that to happen, right? You don't want somebody coming into your home stadium and beating you, especially on opening day. And opening day is one of the most magical moments of the year. There is nothing like that opening day kickoff. You can feel the energy. You can see the energy. And last game I was at, yep, I was sitting right there, that very spot. It wasn't the greatest seats in the world, but hey, you're in the building, right? Nothing like actually being there. My only complaint was it was opening day. I like being there when it's cold, wet, and nasty, right? That's real football. All righty, guys. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I hope I got it off to a great start for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, comments are always welcome. Yes, even the Cowboys and Ravens fans, welcome aboard. I still like you, despite your deplorable taste in football teams. Have a great day, and I'll catch you next time.